Well, hello and welcome to Back to School Night. I'm Mr. Olson, your son or daughter's 11th grade U.S. history teacher. Before we get into the curriculum of the course, I always like to, on Back to School Night, talk a little bit about who I am. If I was seeing you in person and not here in the Zoom, I'd do the same little spiel. So I'll give you a sense of my background. This is my 18th year here at Half Moon Bay High School, so I've been around for a while. I'm also the Social Studies Department Chair. This is about the 8th or 9th year now that I've taught U.S. history. So for many years, I really only taught freshman studies and broadcasting, a class I teach on the side. I'll talk about that in a moment. But a few years ago, I had the opportunity to begin to teach U.S. history, and I've kind of reshaped the curriculum. I really enjoy the class. I enjoy the age level of the students. They're a little bit more mature than the freshmen. They seem much more interested in their country. We talk a lot about U.S. Supreme Court cases and kind of the development of the history of this nation. So I have a lot of fun with the students. This is not my only career. I moonlight as a sports broadcaster. I'm the play-by-play voice for the USF Dons men's basketball team. I also broadcast a number of our baseball and volleyball games, and once in a while I get a call to do one of our soccer games. So I'm kind of I guess a busy guy. I do a number of things in the district. I produce videos. The kids kind of get a kick out of the fact that they can sometimes hear me on radio because our USF games are on KNBR 1050. And so, a student will say, "I heard you on the radio last night. That was you, Mr. Olson, kind of cool." So, I have another thing. I live on the coast. Both my kids came through this campus. My daughter went to UC Davis, graduated a couple years ago, works at Genentech, and my son is a soon-to-be graduating senior at the University of Oregon. So they both came through this campus and went to the college of their dreams. My daughter knew in middle school she wanted to go to Davis, and my son started talking 9th or 10th grade about the University of Oregon, and they both went to those schools. So Half Moon Bay High School, I think, as a parent, I think is a tremendous local campus for us to be able to send our sons and daughters to. So that's a little bit about me and who I am. Let's talk now about the course, U.S. History. Okay, let's move on to the actual class itself, U.S. History here at Half Moon Bay High School. This is a statewide standard here throughout the state of California that we cover U.S. history. The state of California has kind of an interesting setup because, as you might remember, your son or daughter took U.S. history if they went to Cunha, probably with Mr. Cox, back in 8th grade. And we're magically expecting that the students are going to show up because in 8th grade, they do U.S. history from, the colonial time period through about the end of the Civil War Reconstruction. And, we expect them to magically show up as 11th graders and we pick it up from there. Well, that's not quite exactly how it's set up. So let me talk about it. So the first unit, which the students are in now, is actually a review unit. So in essence, in this class, we cover pretty much all of U.S. history from the colonial time period through the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, all the way to present time. However, the first half of, U.S. history from the colonial time period to the Civil War, we go through really quickly because it's just kind of a review of 8th grade for the students. So we're doing that unit now. We're just kind of beginning to get into our discussions of the Civil War, and we'll be ending that unit in the next week or two. Then we move into what we call the bridge to the 20th century, the establishing and settling of the Old West, the frontier, Native American Indian Wars, as the West got expanded. And then, of course, the arrival of industry, the explosion of big cities, and then the emergence of modern America, the progressive era, the idea of imperialism, America developing as an empire and getting more involved in, foreign affairs around the world. This kind of brings us to around Christmas time. We usually end the first semester at World War I. It's always my sense with the students to try and convey kind of the mood, the way the country was feeling at the time, the best that we possibly can. And, talk about various U.S. Supreme Court cases along the way, how they kind of shaped how people lived, and how sometimes a Supreme Court case would overturn an earlier ruling. So these are a lot of the things that are emphasized throughout the course of the class. You know, the way I expect the students to kind of, you know, handle our Zoom learning, our distance learning, is just to make sure they're staying on top of the work. You know, if they're getting things turned in, if they're handling you know, posting of assignments in Google Classroom. I'll talk about Google Classroom in a minute. But then we hit Christmas break at the end of World War II. We've talked about the expansion of the country and all that. And then we get into, in the second semester, the start of the second semester, we pick it up with the roaring 1920s and the Great Depression, et cetera. You know, all the way through to the New Deal, and, you know, all the extra legislation put in by FDR, the impact that still is felt by some of those programs today in our country. In the second semester, our unit's a little bit shorter. We kind of go through things a little differently. You know, we spend about 2 to 3 weeks, probably 3 weeks on World War II and the aftermath. And then we do about 3 weeks on the Cold War. And then we do a unit on the civil rights movement of the 50s and 60s. We arrive, you know, into the 70s and discuss the Vietnam War and, you know, some of the, you know, feeling here in the country with protest movement, et cetera. I grew up during the Vietnam War, so I can tell some of my own personal stories. We get into the Watergate scandal with the resignation of Nixon. You know, as the students always asked me at one point early in the second semester, Mr. Olson, are we going to make it? We're going to make it all the way to current time. And we do. We don't, you know, quite get all the way through to Obama. Obama has not yet quite shown up with chapters in the textbook, but that's coming very soon. But we will get to, you know, the events of, you know, the election of 2000, the events of September 11th, you know, into the, you know, George W. Bush presidency, the election of Obama. So I try and, you know, cover the gamut and just give the students a sense of the history of their nation. We have a textbook that they have at home that they're using as kind of a model. But again, you know, I posted a fair amount of online assignments. I'm anticipating and hoping that the students are doing all of this work at home. Most of them are. The students are doing a great job. All of your sons and daughters, and the vast majority of them, are doing a great job of getting work turned into me. I want to talk in the very last slide. I just left a minute or two here. That for you, the parent at home, School Loop should kind of be your Bible. The kind of information you'll see on School Loop will be your ongoing sons or daughters letter grade. The students will know this already. I'm very good at keeping up to date with the grades. And then you'll see also on School Loop when assignments get posted, when work gets posted. For your, you know, sons or daughters, for them, really, Google Classroom is the Bible. It doesn't have a very good parent portal view, which is why we use School Loop as our parent view. But for the students, they're posting all their work in Google Classroom. They can turn it in many different ways. It's a great system for the teachers to use to kind of look at the classroom as in kind of a spreadsheet view, and we can see all the kids' work coming in. If you have any questions about anything at all, you can always send me an email. That's kind of the best way, is to send me a direct email, kind of go around the School Loop system, because that involves an extra login for me. But whether you loop mail me, or, you know, just send me a direct email, I will get back to you usually within 24 hours if you have any kind of questions. I'm looking forward to a great school year. Again, I hope we can see your sons and daughters in person at some point, you know, as we move through this school year. But I think in Zoom, you know, they're probably gleaning some things from me. I'm you know, keeping it a little more lecture based in Zoom. But, you know, we're doing some breakout room activities and various different things, but we're going to try and keep it moving throughout the course of the school year. Thanks for watching our back to school night presentation. Take care.